Here on Times Radio, it is 12:20. Now, Scottish ministers are being urged to introduce a tax on private jets a year ahead of schedule and to set the charge at a punishingly high rate. Campaigners claim that bringing a planned levy forward from April 2028 could raise almost £400 million by 2031. Let's speak to Finlay Asher, co-founder of Safe Landing, which campaigns for sustainable aviation. Hello, Finlay.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for being with us. That quote about setting it punishingly high, that's from the group Patriotic Millionaires. Do you agree with the ambition and the intent here?
Well, I think the fundamental here is if you can afford a private jet, you can probably afford to pay more tax. And the fact of the matter is that private jets pay proportionally far less in tax than just the average person would if they're going on holiday, and the air passenger duty they pay at the moment in the UK. And the new policy called Air Departure Tax that Scotland is introducing from their airports still sets the private jet tax relatively low. We think it could go higher, and obviously governments at the moment are looking around for more money in lots of different places, aren't they? They're considering taxes on the average person in society to pay for the things we need to pay for. Making our homes warmer, reducing our energy bills, improving our public transport. And in aviation, I'm an aviation worker, there's lots of money required to transition our industry to more sustainable means. That requires money, and we need to get the money from somewhere. And if we're not getting it from the wealthiest in society who fly the most polluting aircraft, then clearly I think we've not got the right policy balance.
But that estimate of £400 million, that assumes that private jet travel would stay the same, or the charge was set at 30 times the existing air passenger duty. Is the point of it to raise money, or is the point of it to stop people doing it in the first place?
Well, I think I would describe this as a win-win. On one hand, you could increase the tax, and, wealthy people that fly private jets, their average net worth is more than £100 million. So quite likely they will be able to afford quite high levels of tax and will continue to fly. And if there isn't a reduction in private jet use, at least we'll raise money and we can decarbonise the rest of the economy, make people's bills lower, improve public services. And if it does mean that they reduce their private jet use, we will get a reduction in emissions. So I think either way, it's a win-win.
Look, you campaign for sustainable aviation. Some people would say that is an oxymoron itself. Is there a way, though, to fly privately and sustainability? Because that sounds doubly impossible.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I would say aviation at the moment is kind of where electric cars were 15 years ago. If you go back 15 years, if you think about Tesla, the US company, they were making electric cars, and it was only kind of multimillionaires that could afford them at that time. But as they've scaled and as the technology's improved, the costs have been coming down more and more rapidly. And now the average person can start to afford an electric car. We're going to see a similar thing with electric flight. And actually, we're really excited about this because it could bring a lot more jobs. It could develop high-tech manufacturing and aviation jobs in the UK. In fact, Scotland is incredibly well placed for this because we've got that island geography. If you think of the Orkney Islands, Shetland, Lewis, and all of the other West Coast islands. So private jet users could take the lead in doing that. For example, they could get a zero rate of this tax if they fly in an electric or a hybrid or a hydrogen-powered aircraft. And that will help develop the technology, create jobs, provide economic opportunity, and will accelerate the general public being able to travel in that way as well.
Are there electric jets at the moment that could replace the role of the largely used by private jets at the moment?
So at the moment, their electric aircraft are very small. The ones that are coming out the next few years can only carry about 5 people. We might start to see 10 people in the early 2030s. There's a company that's looking at the early 2030s with 30 passengers, another that's designing a 90-seat one for the middle of 2030. So they're on the horizon, but they actually are struggling with the initial funding because it takes a lot of money to develop and certify an aircraft. And the other thing to say is that generally, because of the weight of batteries, we're going to have to fly a lot more efficiently. Private jet users often want to fly around very quickly, so they might need to decelerate a little bit. But actually, a lot of private jet flights, if you look at the UK, they are flying like London to south of France, and that is a route that absolutely could be possible with electric aircraft in the next decade.
Finally, Finlay, just to give us all some context here for those of us who've never flown on a private jet, if I did want to fly in a private jet, say from Edinburgh to the south of France, what would that cost me and how much tax would I be paying?
Well, it's a little bit variable because there's lots of different private jets, and it depends on the on the size and the class, but generally it could easily cost £20 million for that one flight, and then the amount of tax they're paying, £20,000.
I was going to say that does sound.
But then if they're £20,000, but then the tax might be like £1,000 at the moment, so it's a relatively small percentage compared to if the average person might be paying £60 or £80 on a ticket, depending on where they're going, just in tax, which is a larger proportion. So like £1,000, £2,000 to a wealthy person that's already paying £20,000-30,000 for a flight, probably is in their kind of spare change, and there's definitely scope for charging them more.
I mean, at £20,000, it might as well be £20 million for some of us. Thank you very much indeed, Finlay Asher. Finlay is the co-founder of Safe Landing, which campaigns for sustainable aviation. Time now for our